corridor of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Dr. King knew that people of goodwill must always face the challenge of whether they will or will not, with righteous indignation, speak up when justice is in peril, stand up when the very foundation of our democracy is threatened, and rise up when the powerful and the privileged misuse, abuse, and wield their power to oppress and diminish and destroy. No pressure, Netroots Nation, but you are those people of goodwill. It is you. You will engage and inspire. You will lift up and connect our collective voices to create the kinds of schools and communities and country that reflect our hopes and our dreams and our possibilities. I bring you greetings from our President, Lily Eskelsen Garcia, and the 3 million teachers and education professionals of the largest union in this country, the National Education Association. I know that, like me, many of your hearts are breaking for our world, for our country, for our children. We harbored no illusion that our fight for social justice was over. But to have to face the reality that a man who openly and without shame embodies hate and misogyny, racism, and xenophobia has not only been elected the leader of the free world, but has given permission from the highest office in this land to bully and to discriminate, to deny rights and freedom and justice and fairness to already marginalized communities. As our new reality took hold, we realized that we were in the fight for the very soul of America, for that democracy of promise and opportunity. This group here surely knows that what Maya Angelou said was true. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. President Trump and Secretary DeVos made it very clear that their educational priority was to decimate our public schools and destroy the dreams of those students who come to us with the greatest needs. From slashing education funding by over $10 billion to denying a safe and learning environment for our trans students. They've showed us who they are, from jeopardizing Title IX protections to refusing to guarantee that they would not privatize the education of our students with special needs, to making the case for guns in our classrooms to fight off the attack of the grizzly bears. Betsy DeVos demonstrated that she knew absolutely nothing about our schools and our children and education. But here we are. The most unqualified, unfit, unprepared person is now our education secretary. We should have believed them. But let me tell you something. Even as our own souls ache, we must find our way to hope. It's what Brian Stevenson describes in his book, Just Mercy. If you have not read it, you must. He describes it as the kind of hope that creates a willingness to position oneself in a hopeless place and be a witness. The kind of hope that allows one to believe in a better future, even in the face. Face as a young person trying to find her way to get encouragement, resources, and respect, she needed to be able to live into her brilliance. Nisha ended her poem with this pointed question: do you hear me? Do you hear me? She wanted to know that her teachers and paraprofessionals and counselors heard her. And I promised we did. We hear them when they tell us they know that because of the color of their skin, they still suffer from the institutionalized racism that impacts their schools and communities throughout a country that's still grappling with internment and with slavery and with reservations. I told her that as education professionals, our work is fundamental to this nation. And we accept the profound trust that has been placed in us. So we at the NEA will not rest until all our students know we not only hear them, but we will fight to ensure this society sees their humanity and does what it must so they can truly be free. But we can't do it alone. We need you to stand with us in the gaps for our children. When the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights refuses to protect the most basic of human and civil rights, we need you to stand in the gap with us when inequitable resources diminish their opportunities, when their families are torn apart, when bullies challenge their ability to learn. We need you to stand with us in that gap. We need you to demand that every public school looks like our best public school. And when they say they can't afford it, I need you to call them out. They did afford it. They afforded it for some of our children, but not for the others. Call them out. We need social justice activists like you to help us fight. Every parent has the means to provide for their families, and every senior can retire with dignity. 7053. These numbers represented a new era in the American civil rights movement. When Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat, 7053. take up that struggle to create that beloved community. We'll soon hear from Senator Elizabeth Warren, who for more than 3 decades has been an unwavering champion for those living in poverty, for working families and students. We applaud her tenacious spirit, but we too must work unceasingly for the real freedom of a decent living and the right to organize to make it so. We have a duty to protect the public good so that all Americans have equitable access to the systems that give them the opportunity for success. This is our time to demand what's right, just like Mother Jones, that great labor organizer who many called the most dangerous woman in America, because she proudly proclaimed, "I am not afraid of the pen or the scaffold or the sword. I will tell the truth wherever I please." Netroots Nation, let's be the most dangerous collective voice in this country. Let's tell the truth wherever we please. Congress in Washington and legislatures all over this country are refusing to invest in our children's future. Let's tell the truth. Greedy politicians are rigging our economy for the corporate billionaires and against working families. Netroots Nation, let's tell the truth. The powerful and the wealthy are trying to voucherize and privatize and suck the lifeblood out of our public schools. Netroots Nation, let's tell the truth. We must heed the clarion call of Cesar Chavez. There's no turning back. We will win because ours is a revolution of the mind and of the heart. So there's no turning back. When the significant role that immigrants have played in the success of this country is diminished, we won't turn back, Rebecca. We won't turn back. We won't turn back. When they try to silence our voice by stripping the rights of unions to collectively act in the best interest of our students and our families and this country, we won't turn back. Netroots Nation, it is us. It is us who must stand and be a witness. We must use our collective power and with righteous indignation demand justice for our children. There's no turning back. Because our babies are depending on us to be worthy of them. Thank you so very much for all you do. There's no turning back.
Of the great state of Maryland, Ben Jealous.
Hey, brothers and sisters. It's good to be back in Netroots. Let's hear it for Becky Pringle. And I just got to say, you know, amongst the shouts earlier, I heard somebody yelling, "Trust black women." I want to say I trust Stacey Abrams. I don't know the other candidates here, but I've been organizing with Stacey since she was 20 years old. We took on a governor of Mississippi who wanted to turn a black college into a prison, and we beat him. Never count that sister out anywhere, anytime. She is bad. I'm here today, brothers and sisters, to ask you just to think for a second about where we are as a country. In this moment when far right-wing extremists control every branch of our federal government, so many of us walking around last winter dazed and confused, saying the Serenity Prayer daily. The key kind of notion in that is know what you can change. Well, the far right wing knows what they can change. As of last week, they changed the party of the governor of West Virginia. And if you think that doesn't matter where you live, consider this. They now have enough governorships to rewrite the U.S. Constitution if they can get their state legislatures to go along. 38, 3/4, read your Constitution. And so I'm here to say, brothers and sisters, there's one thing that we can change, there's one thing that we can control. It is the destiny of our families, and it is who runs most of our states. You see, when we run in the spirit of those who inspired us to get onto the battlefield, in the spirit of Bayard Rustin, in the spirit of JFK and RFK and MLK, Shirley Chisholm and Cesar Chavez, we win. Those leaders, yes, were on fire for civil rights. They were also on fire for ending poverty and expanding opportunity. In other words, brothers and sisters, if the Democratic Party is searching for a formula for victory, I would suggest that we run as Democrats. Republican light just don't cut it. My family's city of Baltimore. We went through tough times a couple years ago, tougher than normal. Neighborhoods were on fire. And I stopped for a second to consider what had happened to Upton. Upton's where my family had started its journey in Baltimore almost 80 years ago. When Granddad came up to work for the B&O Railroad, the family moved into the McCullough Homes housing projects, and my grandma in 1940 went to work for Planned Parenthood. And I thought about, as I stood there on my way to church, just stopping in the shadow of the housing projects where Mom had spent half her childhood, I thought about how blessed my family had been, that in one generation we had gone from raising one child, my mother, in the housing projects, to sending another child, me, off to Oxford University to be a Rhodes Scholar. And I thought about, what did it take? What did it take? Well, yeah, it took hard work, but you know what? It also took a context in which hard work could be enough, in which public higher education was either free or almost free, in which we didn't just have good jobs, we had good union jobs, and they were easy to find. It was my grandparents' AFSCME pensions that put me through college. Like they put my mom through college too. And you look so many of our cities and our states, and the reality is that today we have put obstacles in front of working families that mean that you just need to be lucky. Lucky to get a bus that works and gets you to your job on time. And well, I'm running for governor of Maryland because Maryland's been good to my family for generations, and I want to make sure that it is good to all working families for generations to come. And that means that we got some catching up to do to get our politics in line with our values. We've got to make sure that the minimum wage is raised to $15 per hour. so it catches up with inflation. So parents don't have to decide between either starving their children because they don't get enough to buy food or neglecting them because they're working 3 jobs and can't be at home. We have to make sure that everybody in Maryland has health care no matter what Trump does in Washington. We are the only state with the federal waiver you need to create a health care for all system, and when I'm governor, we will use it. We must end massive student debt. We must get back to public universities being essentially free. And we can do that by pushing forward and actually ending mass incarceration. Now, nothing I'm suggesting is easy. Frankly, nothing I've accomplished in my years as a community organizer and a civil rights leader ever has been. But I know Maryland's soul, and I know what it takes to get big things done, and quite frankly, all at once. See, there was a year not too long ago, 2012, 2013, when the civil rights community in Maryland came forward, and we said, this is the year to abolish the death penalty. This is the year to pass marriage equality. This is the year to pass the DREAM Act. This is the year to expand voting rights, while both Pennsylvania and Virginia were suppressing them. And this is the year to make our schools and our streets safer by passing sensible gun safety reforms. And you know, the establishment, top leadership in our state said, maybe some of y'all should just get in line. Like, maybe this isn't your year. Why don't you all talk amongst yourselves? The majority of the state, right? Y'all people of color, y'all gay folks, y'all immigrants, y'all women who are concerned about gun violence and their children getting killed. You know, y'all who add up to like 80% of our state, y'all talk amongst yourselves and figure out who's going to get in line. And our young activists came forward and they said, you know, we understand how that subtracts. But in these years, when the Supreme Court has gone AWOL on civil rights and human rights, and we have to once again defend minority rights with majority votes, maybe it would be better math if we tried addition rather than subtraction and just adopted the motto of the Three Musketeers and said, all for one and one for all. And so that year, I led the effort to abolish the death penalty. I co-chaired the effort to pass the DREAM Act. And well, under my leadership and Julian Bond's leadership, the NAACP put organizers on the ground to pass marriage equality. And not only did we become the first state south of the Mason-Dixon to do any of them, we became the first state south of the Mason-Dixon to do all of them. We can have years like that on education and on the economy. We can make sure that we have a high-quality teacher in every classroom. We can make sure that we actually teach our kids coding because, you know, they're going to need to know it. We can make sure that our trade education is first class and that every child comes out of high school ready for a career. But in order to do that, we're going to have to do it the way that we've always done it. And that's why my campaign is building a movement of working families across the state of Maryland that is bigger, more diverse, more robust than anybody's seen in a recent election at this stage. I'm proud to say that I have Bernie's endorsement. I'm proud to say that I have Working Families endorsement. I'm proud to say that I have DFA's endorsement. But come this fall, you will see us roll out a movement to move our working families forward and add many more. I've seen signs this is already working. You know, I was in the backyard, the Eastern Shore, in the center of Trump country, Hogan country. A bunch of progressives had gathered They thought that they knew where everybody was until one guy raised his hand and he said, I have a question for you. I said, and they all knew him. I said, what's that? He said, well, I voted for Donald Trump. And we thought we knew you. He said, and I just want to know, are you for single-payer health care? And I said, yeah. He said, really? I said, heck yeah. He said, well, then I'll vote for you and I'll organize other Trump voters to vote for you too. And I was like, you know, that's cool. You're going to have to switch parties most likely, but I have a question for you. He said, what's that? I said, why? He said, well, you know, it's pretty simple. I'm the finance manager at a car dealership. And every year I dread the same day, and a man like Groundhog Day, it comes every day. It's the year that we find out how much more than we expected will our health care go up this year. And then we have to go have two conversations I hate to have. One is with the owner to say, we're going to revise everything down again, boss. Profit projections, bonuses. And then the other is with my fellow employees. Pause. He said, whom I love. To explain to them that, once again, not only is everything being ratcheted down, but when it comes to their health care, they will be paying more and they will be getting less. He said, I'm a free market guy, but man, till we take the profit motive out of basic health care coverage, he said, my business doesn't get stronger and my employees don't get healthier. People say to me, you know, Ben, are you going to win by running to the right? You're going to win by running to the left? I say, no, I'm going to win by running towards the people. We're going to lean into this pain that, frankly, unites all of our families because we worry that our children may be the first generation of Americans to be worse off than their parents and their grandparents. And it cuts through every kitchen table in our state. And Donald Trump makes mischief with it by picking scapegoats and dividing people against each other. We, as organizers, online and in the streets, know that there's an alternative to divide and conquer. It's unite and triumph. Unite and take our states back. Unite and create a better future for our children. Make it real plain. We know how to win. We know how to win big. But we have to be willing to have faith that our values are enough. That who we are is enough. That who inspired us was right. That when we stand up for civil rights, when we stand up for working families, when we stand up and say we will end poverty and we will build economies that lift all boats, we can win. And so, brothers and sisters, I'm here today to ask for your support, to ask for your help. Because when we take Maryland back, when we build this movement across our state, when we literally succeed in removing the governor of Maryland who has become Trump's doormat on his doorstep, we start to build hope down the southeastern seaboard of the United States where right now we could win if we wanted to. Here in Georgia, would Stacey Abrams know the movement she's been building? A few years ago, Republicans in Georgia were winning by 250,000 votes, and there were 800,000 unregistered people of color in the state. She's registered more than 250,000 of them. When Hillary lost in Florida by 120,000 votes, there were almost 1 million unregistered blacks and Puerto Ricans in Florida. In South Carolina, Republicans win by 100,000 votes. There's 350,000 unregistered black folks in that state. We sit around twisting our hands. saying, what should we do? Well, you know what? The antidote to massive voter suppression has always been the same. It's massive voter registration. Let's go do it. We sit around, we twist our hands and we say, well, golly gee, do we go out there and do we organize people of color or do we organize working class whites? Well, as my good friend Reverend Dr. Barber says, if somebody's fool enough to ask you, is it race or is it class? Brothers, sisters, just say yes. I've sat there backstage in the Ozarks, a bit dazed, because I gave the same speech I gave in Chicago or Detroit introducing Bernie Sanders and got the same response in a room where the greatest diversity was that 20% of the men were in deer hunting camouflage. Watch Bernie get the same response as he did in Detroit and Chicago for every applause line, including calling for the police to stop killing unarmed black men and women. Poked my head back out through the curtain and saw what appeared to be half the guys in deer hunting camouflage on their seats with their fists in the air hollering their support for stopping the killing of unarmed black men and women. Hopped on a plane, went back to West Baltimore, thinking the whole time, what just happened? Sisters and brothers, realized as Democrats, we practice this thing called identity politics for a reason. It's good organizing, right? You know who you're going to. You know what they're concerned about. You talk about it first. They may listen to the rest of what you have to say. But when it's come to working class people of all colors, we haven't had enough to say. On the one hand, with the working class white men, we really didn't have anything to say because we weren't willing for decades to really talk about creating the level playing field that every working family needs in this country. And when it comes to my cousins in West Baltimore, not the ones who worry about discrimination on the jobs, but the ones who worry about whether they can find a job, they've been waiting for the same conversation too. They've been waiting for the same conversation too. As of 3 weeks ago, my campaign became the only campaign in Maryland to be attacked by the National Republican Governors Association, who has now attacked us multiple times and sent trackers to our events. I would ask you to ask yourselves why the RGA is worried about one Democratic primary candidate 11 months from the Democratic primary. And I would offer, because we have one Democrat in Maryland who's running as an actual Democrat, who's running to say straight up, we will defend civil rights. Yes, we will pass the Trust Act. We will make sure that our police officers are police officers and not immigration officers. And at the same time, we will build a more robust economy. We will push forward in ensuring that work pays for everybody and schools work for every child. No, Republicans know they can beat Republican light, but they worry that they can't beat Democrats. Thank you and God bless.
Netroots Nation, please welcome DACA recipient Adrian Reno.
Unafraid. Queer, queer. Queer, queer. Protect immigrants. Protect immigrants. Netroots Nation! Hi, everyone. I am Adrian Reina. I'm undocumented and unafraid, queer and unashamed. You know, and I just want to talk really quick about our black sisters who took action this morning. We stand with you. When our black sisters are under attack, what do we do? When our black brothers are under attack, what do we do? That's right. Now, I'm here today to talk about something really urgent in the immigrant rights movement. DACA is under attack. TPS is under attack. I am a DACA recipient. My sister is a DACA recipient. My parents are undocumented. And I don't have to tell you all what is the current situation with immigration in this country. But I am here calling on every single one of you. If you've ever asked yourself the question, I want to protect immigrants. How can I do this? The moment is now. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program was enacted in 2012 and has benefited over 800,000 people like me, for people from all over the world, to pursue a life of dignity and respect. And while DACA may not solve all of our problems, it is something that brings peace of mind to me, to my mother, to my sister, to my father, and for countless families across this country. The temporary protected status programs that protect people, and I have the countries here on my phone because I couldn't memorize them all. Protect people from El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Nepal, and Yemen. This administration has made it their issue to end these programs and to put over 1 million people onto the fast track to deportation. Because I know you can see the writing on the wall. These are programs that the government has all of our information. And if they disrupt these programs and they end them, more than 1 million people, black immigrants, LGBTQ immigrants, pipeline to deportation. So this is just getting started. So I need you all right now to pull out your phone. Everyone, if you're ready to take action and across this country in a real, meaningful way, pull out your phone. Go to your web browser and type in defenddaca.com right now. And I want you to sign up to an event today for August 15th and to show up in the streets ready to protect DACA and TPS. Because we will not let our victory that we fought for so hard in 2011 and 2012 to pass. That is not going to happen. Not under the watch of the leadership of black women. Immigrants right now. We need you all to stand with us. Netroots Nation, are you ready for this? Are you ready to take action on August 15th? I'm going to pass it on to Beto.
¿Cómo están todos? Hoy estoy aquí para defender mi derecho en hablar mi propio idioma y parar la colonización, la ocupación de mi cerebro, la ocupación de mi persona, la deshumanización, no solamente de los hermanos inmigrantes jóvenes, sino de sus papás. Today I want to tell you that I'm a proud Georgian. I'm an Athenian. I live in Athens, Georgia. And I want to say, stop the criminalization of every undocumented immigrant in Georgia. Stop the incarceration of undocumented immigrants in local jails because they're driving without driver license, because they don't have a social security number. Georgia, and one of the most, I want to say racist. It's about race, it's about skin color. And I'm sorry, but our history been show us how people of color we've been treated. But it's enough. Enough is enough. Today we are standing up. I hope you're standing up with 11 millions of undocumented immigrants in USA. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Thank you so much, Netroots Nation. This is a call to action for all of you. If you are ready to get up, if you're ready to march in the streets on August 15th, stand up right now. I want to see all the people who are ready to throw down with immigrants across this country and shut it down, because our lives are on the line. We must protect DACA and TPS at all costs necessary. So if you are ready, sign up now on defenddaca.com, share it online. I challenge every single one of you to get 10 people to come out that day. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a rest of your day.
Netroots Nation, let's welcome Senator Elizabeth Warren.
I want to say a word about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, DACA, that was just discussed. You know, the fights that we fight for, they matter. In 2012, because of the persistence of many of you in this room, 800,000 young men and women were protected from deportation because of you. And because of DACA, dreamers who are as American as you and me were promised a chance. They were promised a chance to work, the chance to live without fear of being ripped away from family and friends and the home that most of them have known. The chance to build a future. And now, President Trump will make a decision on DACA. Dreamers' future hangs in the balance. This Tuesday, August 15th, people are mobilizing to protect dreamers. So let's not sit back. Let's stand together and say, President Trump, let dreamers stay. They are our friends, our family, and our future. Give dreamers the chance to build their dreams. That's what we want to do. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, these fights matter. These fights matter, and that's why it's good to be back at Netroots Nation. I love it. Thank you, Netroots Nation. And thank you, Mary, and thank you, Eric, and thank you, Arshad, and thank the entire Netroots Nation's team for bringing us together again. You know, it is a great treat to be here in Atlanta, the hometown of a man who has taught us the importance of necessary trouble. My friend and my hero, John Lewis. What a man. I look out in this room and I see 3,000 progressives, people of every race, gender, religion, and color, all committed to building a better future. I look out here and I see Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Yeah, Trump's worst nightmare, but also a big threat to everyone who kind of likes things the way they work right now. Now, a few weeks ago, I read an op-ed in the New York Times from a so-called Democratic strategist, and the title was, Back to the Center, Democrats. That sounds like some other people read it too. it was all about how we have to stop caring about, quote, identity politics, and how we have to stop waging, quote, class warfare. According to this author, the path forward is to go back to locking up nonviolent drug offenders and ripping more holes in our economic safety net. I even got a shout out. Apparently, I am the face of the problem. So is Bernie. But let's be really clear here. The real power, the real threat is not me. It's you. All of you. Yeah. It's your energy, your passion, and your commitment to our values that threaten the bland business as usual establishment. Now, we've been warned off before. We've been told, give up, keep your heads down, be realistic, act like a grown-up, keep doing the same old, same old. But here's what's interesting. After this piece was published, instead of a lot of ferocious back and forth and piling on, this time, no one cared. Big yawn. Why? Because the Democratic Party isn't going back to the days of welfare reform and the crime bill. It is not going to happen. Are we clear on that? Yeah. We are not going back to the days of being lukewarm on choice. No, we're not. We're not going back to the days when universal health care was something Democrats talked about on the campaign trail, but were too chicken to fight for after they got elected. And we are definitely not going back to the days when a Democrat who wanted to run for a seat in Washington first had to grovel on Wall Street. Nope, we're not going back. The Democrats are headed forward. We are looking ahead, and we will not, we shall not, we must not allow anyone to turn back the clock. Now, a lot of you have been coming here since the very first yearly coast back in 2006. I know that feels like a long time ago, right? And way back in 2006, and still when I first came in 2010, a big part of what we were trying to do was crash the gate and get the Democratic Party to listen to us. We wanted a party led by people who weren't afraid to call themselves progressives. We wanted a party that would defend progressive values. We wanted a chance to fight for progressive solutions to our nation's challenges. We wanted a movement. And now, look around. We got the progressive movement. We got it. We got it, and we gather here every year to organize, to energize, and to sing karaoke. You bet. And now, we are not the gate crashers of today's Democratic Party. We are not a wing of today's Democratic Party. We are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. But boy, we have inherited a hell of a challenge, haven't we? We are gathering here in Atlanta in a moment of crisis for our country. And I'm not just talking about Donald Trump and his Twitter account. More and more families today are hanging on by their fingernails in a country with an economy and a government that works for those at the very top. This crisis didn't start when Donald Trump walked into the Oval Office, and it won't just magically disappear when he walks out of it. It's true. Now, I've been shouting about this crisis from every rooftop I could find for years, talking about how our middle class is squeezed to the breaking point, how chances to move up in this economy are disappearing, and warning that if we weren't careful, the very promise of this nation, the commitment to expand opportunities, would be lost. That's the fight that got me into politics. That's the fight that brought me to my very first Netroots all those years ago. So I want to ask a question, by applause, if you can get two hands together there. By applause, who got into this fight because they were passionate about economic justice? There we go. Who came to the fight? Who came to the fight for reproductive rights? How about clean air and clean water? Yeah. How about immigration? Yeah. Civil rights. Human rights. Anti-war. Campaign finance reform. Clean air and clean water. Net neutrality. I just said it. Net neutrality. All right. Well, do we have any other bankruptcy nerds in the house? Okay. One or two. Okay, my guys. You know, but this is one of the things that I love about coming to Netroots. We all came to this fight from different experiences, and we get fired up about different issues. But if we're going to be the people who lead the Democratic Party back from the wilderness and lead our country out of this dark time, then we can't waste energy arguing about whose issue matters more and who in our alliance should be voted off the island. We need to see each other's fights as our own, and I believe we can. You know, following the 2016 election, I heard a lot of people say that Democrats need to decide whether we're the party of the white working class or the party of Black Lives Matter. Well, I say we can care about a dad who's worried that his kid will have to move away from their factory town to find decent work, and we can care about a mom who's worried that her kid will get shot during a traffic stop. Yeah. The way I see it, those two parents have something deep down in common. The system is rigged against both of them and against their kids. Over the last generation, the most powerful people in this country have gotten way more powerful. Corporate profits and CEO pay are near record highs, but workers' wages, they haven't budged. And one after another, workers' rights are getting ripped away. Unions are under attack. Millions of people are struggling to piece together 2, 3, 4 jobs just to pay the rent. The balance of power is shifting in other parts of our economy too. You know, in industry after industry, airlines, banking, healthcare, agriculture, tech, a handful of corporate giants control more and more and more. The big guys are locking out smaller, newer competitors. They're crushing innovation. Even if you don't see the gears turning, this massive consolidation means prices go up and quality goes down for everything from air travel to broadband service. And rural America is left behind, dismissed by corporate giants as flyover country. This concentration of power strikes at the heart of our democracy. Our government is supposed to be the one place where everybody gets the same fair shot, no matter how powerful or how powerless they might be. But thanks to the revolving door between Capitol Hill, K Street, and Wall Street, powerful people have more and more and more influence in Congress. Thanks to Citizens United, corporate money slithers through Washington like a snake. Washington works great for the rich and the powerful, but for everyone else, not so much. Yes, the system is rigged. And if you don't feel like anyone in politics is doing anything to unrig it, well, that's how a lot of folks who should have been with us last November wound up voting for Donald Trump. For many Americans, it isn't news that the balance of power in our country has seriously tilted away from them. LGBTQ Americans, immigrants, Muslims, women, poor people. Now, I have not personally experienced the fear, the oppression, the pain that many of my fellow Americans endure every day, but I do know this. For a lot of our fellow citizens, the system is rigged now, and it has been rigged for a long, long time. And look, don't just take my word for it. Look around. When women aren't invited to the debate over our own health care, and health insurance must cover Viagra but not birth control, when we're almost 2 decades into the 21st century and we still don't have equal pay for equal work, when a man running for president of the United States can get caught on tape bragging about sexual assault and the Republican Party leaders turn a blind eye, yeah, the system is rigged. But keep going. When the black-white wealth gap triples over the last 3 decades, when racist voter ID laws and voter suppression tactics sprout like weeds all over this country, when a man too racist to become a judge in the 1980s is now the head of the Department of Justice, when communities like Flint are living with poisoned water and polluted air, when there is still no justice for Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, Philandro Castile, and so many more. Yeah, the system is rigged. And keep on going. When you can still be fired from your job because of who you love. When you can't use a public restroom or serve in the military because of your gender identity. When you're afraid to report a rape because ICE could split up your family. When you're treated like a suspect every minute of your life. Yeah, the system is rigged. And if you don't feel like anyone in politics is doing anything to unrig it, or you feel like it's just too broken to unrig at all, well, that's what a lot of folks felt last November. A lot of folks who should have been with us on Election Day, but who just stayed home. So spare me the argument about whether we ought to be trying to bring back folks who voted for Donald Trump or trying to turn out folks who just didn't vote. Because we can't do either of those things until we show that things can change and that we will fight to change them. You know, it is easy to make the case that Donald Trump and the Republicans aren't the answer to any of these problems. Heck, they aren't even trying. Just look at Republican priorities. Cut health care coverage for 25 million Americans and drive up insurance costs for millions more. Cut taxes for billionaires and giant corporations. Roll back Wall Street regulations, gut the Consumer Financial Bureau, and let the big banks wreck our economy again. Turn polluters loose to let them spew and dump and destroy whenever and whatever they want. Zero out the programs that help people keep a roof over their head. Double down against Planned Parenthood, against an undocumented immigrant's right to due process, against a Black American's right to vote in an election. And this week, play a reckless game of chicken with a dangerous foreign power and threaten nuclear war. The Republican agenda. The Republican agenda will make the powerful more powerful and leave everyone else further behind. The Republican leadership is willing to threaten our health, our economy, and our basic safety. Now, all of that is true, and we should say so clearly and loudly. But that's not the end of our job. We have to show people that when we get the chance to lead, things will start getting better. And that starts with showing some backbone. Not just backbone when we stand up to Donald Trump, but backbone when we put forward our own agenda. Yeah. For so many Americans, every day is a battle against powerful interests. And it's time for us to pick sides and get in the fight. So let's talk about picking sides. You ready to talk about picking sides? It is time for us to say Democrats are on the side of working people. Yeah. On the side of moms and dads who dream of a better life for their kids. On the side of people in every part of this country and people of every race, gender, and religion who just want a level playing field and a chance to build a future. That's what they want. And we know how to show them that their fight is our fight. Let's start with jobs. It is time to rethink the basic social contract on labor. We're going to fight for fully portable benefits for everyone. And we're going to fight to make sure that all work, full-time, part-time gig, carries basic pro rata benefits. Yeah. We're going to fight to make it easier for workers to come together to form a union so they can take power into their own hands. Yeah. And we're going to turn the minimum wage into a living wage. Fight for 15. Yes. It's time for us to say that Democrats are on the side of hardworking families who are just getting pounded every single day. We're going to fight for universal pre-K and to make it easier for every family to get child care. We're going to fight like hell to stop Republicans from jacking up the cost of health insurance and taking away health care coverage from millions of people. Trump Care will not get one Democratic vote. Not now, not ever. But it's not enough just to defend the Affordable Care Act. We're going to improve it, starting with bringing down the cost of prescription drugs and leading the fight for Medicare for all. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to make it possible for young people to go to college or get a technical degree debt-free. That's where we are. We're going to fight for affordable housing and good schools all across our country, from the biggest cities to the smallest towns to the most remote rural homesteads. And we will fight our hearts out to defend and expand Social Security and Medicare. Yes, we will. It's time for us to say that Democrats are on the side of consumers. So we're going to fight to break up the monopolies that are killing competition. Yes. We're going to put a cop on the beat so no one can steal your purse on Main Street or your pension on Wall Street. And whether you're shopping for broadband or a student loan, an airline ticket or health insurance, we're going to go to bat for you to make damn sure you don't get cheated. Yeah. There's another thing we need to say, but it's a little controversial, so I hope everybody's like either sitting down or holding on to their neighbors. But we got to say this out loud and in public. Democrats are on the side of science. You think? We got it. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. We're done arguing about whether climate change is real. And we're going to fight with everything we have. We're done arguing about whether or not trickle-down economics works. And we're going to fight to build an economy so it works for working families. And we're done arguing about gun safety, and we're going to fight for some common sense reforms that the overwhelming majority of Americans support. It's time for us to say, Democrats are on the side of fairness and equality. So we're going to fight for equal pay for equal work. Yeah. We're going to fight to keep Planned Parenthood open. And we're going to make sure that women have access to safe, legal abortions. And we're going to fight to put more women in positions of power, from committee rooms to boardrooms to that really nice oval-shaped office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to reform our criminal justice system so that getting caught with a baggie of pot does not mean that your life is ruined, and getting pulled over by the cops does not mean your life is at risk. It's time to say that Democrats are on the side of American values. So we're going to fight for comprehensive immigration reform. Yeah. We're going to say to every dreamer in this country, you are an American. This country is your home, and we have your back. That's what we're going to say. We're going to fight to wipe the stain of Donald Trump's Muslim ban off the books once and for all. And by the way, Mr. President, we're never, ever going to build your stupid wall. Yeah. And we're also going to fight for our democracy. That means we will fight to reverse Citizens United so big corporations can't buy our elections. And we'll fight to stop the voter ID laws so Republicans can't steal our elections. Yeah. And you know something? It's about time for us to be upfront about whose side we are not on. We are not on the side of big Wall Street banks that break the law and thinks everyone else needs to be held accountable. When big bank CEOs break the law, they ought to go to jail just like anyone else. We are not on the side of giant corporations that want to twist government rules for themselves. We are going to slam shut the revolving door and say enough is enough with corporate money that is drowning our democracy. And let's be really clear on this one, just in case anybody doubted it. We are not on the side of the bigots and misogynists, and unlike the so-called Republican leadership in Washington, we're not afraid to say it to their faces. Yep. And we are not on the side of foreign governments that hack our elections or politicians whose fragile egos put our national security at risk. And let's be clear here. Folks, we don't have to tiptoe anymore. We don't have to hedge our bets. We don't have to ask permission from the pundits or the corporate CEOs, and we sure don't have to ask permission from Mitch McConnell. Actually, that's probably a pretty good thing because he would probably tell me to sit down and shut up. Nevertheless, I would persist. Sit. No, I want to. No. Let me do this. Because I want to make a really important point. We don't have to fear the wrath of the powerful. Because when we are bold enough to stand up for our values, when we are bold enough to stand up for our fellow Americans, then that is when we are powerful. That's why we're here. That's right. So, isn't that the spirit that brought all of us to this movement? Isn't that the reason that we are proud to call ourselves progressives? Isn't that the Democratic Party that we want to call our own? This fight is our fight. This fight is the fight Americans have been waiting for someone to take on. This fight is the fight Americans are ready to rally behind. This fight is the fight Americans are counting on us to win. This fight is my fight. This fight is your fight. So let's go win this fight. It is so good to see all of you. Thank 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 you, guys.
Netroots Nation, welcome back Chuck Rocha, President of the Solidarity Strategies.
Now, don't all y'all run off. I'm going to give you the secret passcode to free beer tonight. You can walk your ass out of here if you want to, but you're going to go thirsty. So they tried to figure out who'd be good to follow Elizabeth Warren, and they were like, well, maybe we get a Mexican redneck and a cowboy hat with roosters on his shirt. That would get them going. So look, I'm not going to keep you from your next panel, but I've got a very special announcement. I'm Chuck Roach. I'm the proud president of Solidarity Strategies. We are a full-service political consulting firm made up of immigrants and children of immigrants. My firm is helping lead the resistance with lots of y'all all across the country. You know, I remember back in 2009 when I gave the opening keynote at the 2009 Netroots in Pittsburgh. We've come a long way from that. We've come a long way from being a labor organizer now to me being the CEO and the president of the largest person of color-owned political consulting firm in the country, and that's because of you. That's because of you in this audience and us standing together. I want to thank you for resisting. I want to thank you for standing with Elizabeth. I want to thank you for standing with Bernie Sanders. I've not been able to publicly